Annalisa Parent, welcome to my living room.
Thank you so much for having me. Welcome to my living room.
Where are you zooming in from?
I am currently in New Hampshire.
Oh, nice. How's the weather up there?
It's sunny today. We finally got a sunny day. It was really cold. I've been wearing a wool sweater for the last 3 days.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, down here in New York, New Jersey, it's 95 right now. So summer's definitely here.
That's amazing. I love that. Summer's my favorite season, so it always gets me excited when it gets really hot.
Yes, yes. So before we jump into the interview, I want to know what's happening in New Hampshire. Are you starting to open up?
Yeah, well, New Hampshire didn't close down as much as a lot of states did, but certainly, restaurants are opening their terraces and people are able to at least go out and eat. I think we've tried all the takeout options in town, all of us, regardless of where we live. So we're ready to get out and dine. So I'm excited to try that out.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely down here, it's been pretty locked down, as I'm sure you're seeing on the news. So, but here in New Jersey, we can start doing outdoor dining on June 15th. Salons open up June 22nd, so that's nice. I think non-essential businesses I just saw can open up soon as long as it's half capacity and everyone's in masks. So that'll be good. It'll be
Yeah.
in the right direction if all of that can happen.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of us ready to chop off our straggly locks.
Yeah. Oh, please. I can't wait. I cannot wait. So I received this pitch from Cher, who was so great. And I immediately connected with it because I too am an author. I came out with my debut novel in 2016 called 10 Years Later. And I really thought heading into this quarantine time that I could hone in on book number 2. The problem is it's very hard for me to focus.
Mm-hmm.
Are you finding that to be the case with a lot of authors?
Yeah, I think so. We've got a lot of time, but there's also a lot of frenetic energy around a lot of us. People are worried about loved ones getting sick or financial situations, job situations, staying home with the same people all of the time. There are a lot of things that I think are stressors for people. And it's really interesting. I was talking with one of our authors this morning, and what she said is, I've done other classes, I've done other programs, but what's different about working with you is that you're really addressing the whole writer, and we're talking about our fears, the fear of being vulnerable in your writing, of course, the fear of, will anybody read this? But also, in this time, having that community and having a place to be grounded, a place where you can laugh a little bit, a place where you can have camaraderie outside of the people you live with. My experience of the writers in the writing gym is that it has been a godsend for them to have that safe place to go.
Yeah, no, so take me through the process. Authors turn to you for what? For guidance, inspiration, handholding?
Yeah, so yes, all of the above. But usually they come to me with one of two problems. Either they've got this idea, they've wanted to write a book, and it's just not coming together for them for whatever reasons. We help them to finish the novel. And from there, a lot of authors will come to me and say, well, I finished it, but I don't know how to revise it to publishable. I don't know how to find an agent. Like, what is that whole process about? So I really take them from, I say, idea to sold. So, first phase, I'm helping them to finish the novel. Second phase, revise and then pitch the novel. And there's no shortcut to publishing, but I call it the fast track because I know people in the publishing industry. When we're not in the middle of a quarantine, I spend quite a bit of time in your backyard in New York City with the publishing houses and literary agents. And from there, they're going to create what I call the author lifestyle. So how do you keep your name in the marketplace? How do you, it's called the sophomore slump, right? That second book, getting it out and making it successful, and then move on to 3 and 10 and 18 and have lots of books out there. So we're really looking to help people to create the author lifestyle and get the skills to do that and hop out of the nest and fly on their own.
I love that you just brought brought up the sophomore slump. So I guess what I'm going through with book 2 is normal.
It is. It is. So it's hard to write the second book. And for whatever reason, many authors have difficulty getting traction on that second book. So if they've got, some level of success on book 1, book 2 is just difficult. And then book 3 just kind of takes them on, but you've got to get through that sophomore slump in order to get there. And it can be a tough slog for a lot of authors.
That is so interesting. So what is your advice for authors when it comes to the writing process? When I wrote 10 Years Later, I kind of put myself in quarantine. I would lie to everybody, and I told my family, my friends, I was going on a business trip. Mm-hmm. And what I really did was rented a hotel room for 4 or 5 days at a time. And I did this 5 times. And I just dedicated myself to the manuscript and nothing but the manuscript. I understand, as I've gotten older, my responsibilities have shifted. It's impossible for me to do that. So I think that's another roadblock that I'm having, how to carve out that time. What do you recommend?
Yeah, so you kind of brought up 2 things, which is finding your best writing process, but also making that time in your schedule to write regardless of what's making your life crazy, because we all have some level of that in our lives, even if it looks a little different. So to your first question, there are a lot of programs or classes or workshops or whatever out there that will say, you have to write an outline, or you have to not write an outline, or you have to wear pants, or whatever, but the real truth of it is, and this is coming from my study of neuroscience, for every brain, there's another writing process. And so one of the things that I help writers with is to find that writing process. And the way that authors talk about it is, I fell in love with my writing again. It felt really hard. It was becoming a chore. And now it feels like play. It feels like joy. And that's when you're in creative flow in your brain. And that's how it should feel. And you're not going to get there by doing what someone else does, right? So going to a hotel room might work really well for Lisa and work really terrible for Bob, right? So it's finding that method that works. And the funny thing about it is, right, remember when you met your spouse or your high school sweetheart, you always had time for that person, right? Because you loved them and you wanted to spend time with them. Well, if you fall in love with your writing again, you're always going to have time for it. And that's kind of the secret of success. When it doesn't feel like work, when it doesn't feel like drudgery, you're going to want to do it and be with it and be in it and love that experience. So, I kind of look at it through a neuroscientific and emotional point of view. Let's get you to a point where you fall in love with writing, and finding time for it's not going to be an issue anymore.
Exactly. I love that. I absolutely love that. So I want to circle back around to the agents, because you were talking about before how you help your clients get that agent to take them under their wing. Again, with 10 Years Later, I pitched probably 50 some odd agents with my query, got declined by all of them. Mm-hmm. And then just because I'm an entrepreneur by nature, so I just self-published. What's the downside of doing that? Should I have kept chugging away at trying to find that agent? And how do you fit into that puzzle?
Yeah, so this is a question that authors ask a lot, and this is a topic I speak on all over the world because of that. So they come to me and they say, well, what's the best way to publish? And I say, okay, well, let's back it up. What do you want to do with this book, right? So I've had grandmas who wanted to put together their memoirs for their grandkids and great-grandkids. Well, it doesn't matter how you publish it. We can put it in a binder. We can self-publish it. It's for your family. It's a gift to them. Versus someone who wants to, be the next J.K. Rowling or the next Stephen King. Well, then we're going to go a traditional publishing route. Those are clear-cut cases. For everybody else in the middle, we've got to talk about what are your goals. If it's just important to you to get your story out into the world and for people to read it, then self-publishing might be a really great option for you. If you want to build a lifelong career, self-publishing might be a little bit harder, but it certainly worked for people. It's a very dynamic choice, and there's no right answer for people. Usually I say wait until you get 100 rejections, and then we'll reevaluate your strategy. And one of my authors, we just did that. He got to 100 rejections, and I know he's writing in sci-fi, and I noticed that within the sci-fi realm, a lot of the agents that I talked to were like, that's a really great concept, but if it were YA, young adult, I would hop right on it. And so I went back to the author and I said, look, here's the feedback I'm getting. are you open to transforming the same story into a YA? And he said, absolutely. And so we worked on that, and he's currently pitching it as a YA. So, you know, sometimes you pivot your pitch. For him, it's really important to traditionally publish. Somebody else might have said, nope, I'm just going to self-publish.
Wow, that's really interesting. I want to learn more about you and your own publishing career and how you got into this mentoring role for authors.
Yeah, so a couple of things. I was born to be a teacher and a writer, and I know not everybody out there has a vocation, but I was blessed to be born with one. I can't help doing those two things. I've got to tell stories and I've got to teach. And so I've been telling stories as long as I could talk. God bless my mom. She's put up with it. I published my first piece at 9. And I got my first agent at 22 or 23 for a science fiction novel. So storytelling has always been really important to me. I've written and published in a lot of genres out there: television, poetry, many different genres of fiction. I love storytelling. But what I love even more, Lisa, is creating human connection. Right? And when we can tell a story and tell it well, we can transport someone to a place that they have never been before, or maybe never thought about before. And so we've created a human connection and a conversation that didn't exist up until that point. And we did it through time travel, because the two people involved in that conversation were not in the same room at the same time together. And that's a beautiful thing to me. To be creating conversations and connections for people through story, through quality communication, and ultimately changing people's lives, making people think about things in a new way and expanding ideas. So that's the philosophy that drives me and keeps me doing what I do.
Are you helping authors? Because when I write, it's very visual. I mean, the movie plays out in my head. So obviously a goal would be to get the book turned into a movie one day. I'm sure for other authors, a television series. Do you also help them with that process?
Well, the way that we target that, and you know, it's sort of, there are two ends of that spectrum. So for an author that feels really strongly, you know, this is a goal for me, that I really want this film, you know, I want the film rights, or I want the television rights. What we're going to do is target their strategy to agents who have that as a strong point of their wheelhouse, that they're working in both media, so that we can, you know, target that ultimate goal. Now, a lot of people want their books made into movies, right? That would be a dream for all of us. So it's, you know, we're shooting for the moon, but if that's what an author wants, why wouldn't we shoot for that? The other end of the spectrum is that I work with a lot of screenwriters who are actually creating the novel adaptation of their film. And so I'm teaching them how to go from a strictly visual media to using words as a tool. And that's a really interesting process to do, sort of in the inverse as well.
Wow. Wow. I'm so happy I got to meet you. No, because I want to reach out to you even after this, because, you know, I need help, you know, getting the writing and everything to that next level. And your resume is so extensive. In reading it, you've received a French Congressional Medal of Honor. Is that true? It's so random. I love it.
Would you like to see it? It's right here.
Yeah, of course.
This is what a French Congressional Medal of Honor looks like. It has my name on it. I don't know if you can see it.
Wow.
And then when I had it framed, it's got a, like, you see that on the back?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
So cool. How did you receive that?
It's really interesting. So I was selected to do a piece promoting a 5-week tour of 2 of the regions of France. And I spoke for 5 weeks straight, sometimes several times a day, in French about American culture.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2013.
Wow, you need to do round 2 of that tour. You'll have a lot to talk about when you do.
Yes.
Did you like grow up? Did you know French? Did you have to like speed learn it? How did the language barrier?
Yeah, so I was a double major in college. I studied French and English, English literature. Go figure. Here I am, the writing geek that I am, and so I minored in creative writing as well. So it was a passion of mine my whole life. So no surprise here. Annalisa, my mom's Italian. Parent, my dad's French. So there you go. Like I was destined to be able to do what I do. And I've just always loved French, and I was able to study abroad in Paris, and then they selected me for the speaking tour. So it was an amazing honor.
Did you write a book about that?
I should. It was crazy, crazy times. And, just lots of moving. If I don't know how rock stars do that as a lifestyle, because 5 weeks of hotels and being shipped here, there, and everywhere, I got a taste of it.
So for people watching, where can they find out more about you and to enlist your services?
Absolutely. I'm huge on Facebook. That may be a little passé, but I've got a group called Write to Publish and Sell Your Novel. I am interacting in there every day and doing Facebook Lives and giving writing tips. So that's the most immediate. If you're someone who likes to dig in deep and cyber stalk me and read all about me, my website is www.datewiththemuse.com.
Date with the Muse. That's so funny. Great.
Yes. I'm not the muse. I just facilitate dates with her or him.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. No, I'm going to join the Facebook group. Anybody's free to join?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this was so fun. Thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with you offline soon.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was a real pleasure to speak with you.
Same here. Same here. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.